بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وأكرم على سيدي وحبيبي وقدوتي محمد بن عبد الله
عليه الصلاة والسلام.
نشرف اليوم باستضافة أخي الدكتور سلمان سيد علي من بنك التنمية الإسلامي في حوارنا الثاني هذا العام بعنوان هل يؤثر التدين على الفقر متعدد الأبعاد؟ أدلة من المسح العالمي للقيم للفترة من 2010 إلى 2014. أتشرف بأن أعطي نبذة سريعة عن أخي الدكتور سلمان. الحقيقة أحب أن أثني عليه، فاستجاب مباشرة بعد أن اتصلت به، وأرسل جميع الأوراق في الوقت المطلوب، بل قبل الوقت المطلوب، جزاه الله خيرا. ودائما الدكتور سلمان الحقيقة يدعمني دائما بتواصله معي وبالتزامه بإرسال المطلوب. أقدم له خالص الشكر والتقدير. دكتور سلمان هو كبير الاقتصاديين في المعهد الإسلامي للبحث والتدريب إيرتي في البنك الإسلامي للتنمية. تركز أعماله بشكل كبير على التمويل الإسلامي والاقتصاد الإسلامي، وكان قد شغل منصب زميل زائر في أكسفورد سنتر فور إسلاميك ستاديز في الفترة 2016-2017. قبل انضمامه إلى البنك الإسلامي للتنمية كان قد شغل منصب مدير الأبحاث ومدير التدريب في المعهد الدولي للاقتصاد الإسلامي في الجامعة الإسلامية في إسلام آباد. حصل على بكالوريوس في مرتبة الشرف في الاقتصاد من الجامعة الإسلامية الدولية إسلام آباد باكستان، والدكتوراه من جامعة بنسلفانيا في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. لديه عدد كبير من المقالات البحثية والمنشورات. قام بتنظيم عدد وإدارة جلسات كثيرة جدا من المؤتمرات الدولية الكبرى. يمثل البنك الإسلامي للتنمية في اللجنة الفنية ومجموعات العمل المختلفة التابعة لمجلس الخدمات المالية الإسلامية. حاليا هو رئيس التحرير في إيرتي مجلة الدراسات الاقتصادية الإسلامية. قام بالعديد من المشاريع البحثية للبنك الإسلامي للتنمية مع المنظمات الدولية، وساهم في العديد من مبادرات التنمية الرئيسية وتقارير السياسات. حاليا يقود مجموعة من الأبحاث حول التنمية الاجتماعية والاقتصادية القائمة على مقاصد الشريعة في البحث والتدريب في مجال التنمية المالية الإسلامية. الدكتور اليوم يقدم لنا هذا الموضوع: هل يؤثر التدين على الفقر متعدد الأبعاد؟ ولدي مستخلص كنت أريد أن ألقي بعض الأضواء عليه، لكن أعطي الفرصة للدكتور سلمان. You will have 45 minutes, Doctor, and after that we will have discussion for another 45 minutes also.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد.
صلى الله عليه وسلم.
It is my honor to be here in this institute, and the introduction that was given is not worthy of me. That is a long introduction and praising, which is if I can come up to that, it will be my honor. But I am much below that. Today, I want to talk about does religiosity affect multidimensional poverty. But before we go into this, different people have different expectations from this topic. And Muslims have a different expectation as compared to a set of non-Muslims, as compared to economists, as compared to non-economists. Everyone has different expectations. And I believe in this institute, people will be expecting some role of Islamic religiosity over here. So let me clarify first of all that although although the research started with the idea of Islamic religiosity, but we are looking at the world as a whole, so the focus is not only Islam, focus is on religiosity as such. Although we try to capture the Islamic aspect, but this research basically started, this is a big paper, it's not a short paper that can be covered from A to Z in 45 minutes, but I will just focus on the main part of it so that we can have a discussion. This thing started from, we were not looking for religiosity and poverty in the beginning. It started with the idea how to measure development using Islamic approach. One method to look into development is see how high a person or how high a society has gone in different aspects. But there is no limit to development. The other way to measure the development is in a reverse order, that you see that how many poor are there. Because poverty is easy to define, that you assign a certain minimum that is required for a person to survive, and anybody below that poverty line can be called poor. And a society which has more poor, more proportion of poor, can be considered as less developed as compared to a society which has less number of poor. So this was looking at development from a reverse perspective. And in that, we try to focus on not only on income poverty, but we know that poverty is multidimensional. People are poor not just because of they have lack of money, but because of their habits, because of their deprivations in different kind of dimensions, maybe in education, in health, in whatever. So we try to look into poverty in a comprehensive manner, which can be measured in multi-dimensions. Now the question is, what dimensions should we measure? The multi-dimensional poverty has been popularized by Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. They have come up with a measure. And the basis of their measure is the writings of Amartya Sen, who wrote on poverty, that poverty is not only in income, but it is basically lack of capabilities of a person to do what they want to do. So from that perspective, the UNDP had come up earlier with HDI, Human Development Index. What Human Development Index look into? It looks into education, water, and health of the people, these three dimensions. What OPHI, the Oxford people did, they looked into three other dimensions. They looked into health, education, and standard of living. So this was their multi-dimensions. We thought that we understand that poverty is multidimensional. If we want to measure development, we can measure development in a reverse manner. But development should be measured in some more Islamic way, some more comprehensive way. So one possibility is to look at development through Maqasid Sharia perspective. That the society should be developing not only in terms of income, but also in terms of other dimensions as well. And most of the scholars have, although there are differences in what are the numbers of Maqasid Sharia, etc., but we took for granted the 5 dimensions as such, that the Hifz al-Din, Hifz al-Nasl, Hifz al-Mal, Hifz al-Aql, and Hifz al-Aqidah or Hifz al-Din. So from this perspective, we would like to see development, and we are going to measure development in a reverse manner. That how many, we can define a minimum requirement for each of these 5 dimensions and see how many people are poor from this perspective. So this was the original idea. But then when this paper was published and we come up, since we have collected data on Deen and other things, so we said, let's look at what is the implication of religiosity on the poverty as such. And this, the paper came about. There are other factors as well. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll need energy, then I will teach you. So, does religiosity affect multidimensional poverty? The answer is not very simple. It is quite complicated. Because poverty is affected by religion in many different ways, positively and negatively, through different groups and channels. And it is hard to build a general argument. Yet, we know that it is a fact that poverty and the feel of the poverty is indeed affected by the religion of the person himself, and religiosity of the people in the society. Why this is so? Because religion can affect human behavior in three different ways. One is that it can help the poor to persevere, to make sabr, and this is one possibility. The other possibility is that religion encourages the society to help the poor, zakat or sadaqat or whatever. So a religious society is expected to help the poor, and then it will affect the poverty. The third aspect is that religion also incentivizes the poor himself to put an effort and try to come out of the poverty, not to remain poor always. So this is the incentive effect. So religion can affect poverty through three channels: by reducing the feel of the poverty for the poor person himself, by encouraging him to come out of the poverty by more efforts, and by encouraging others to help him. So we expect that a religious society should have lesser poverty as compared to non-religious society, or people who are religious should have should be less poor. But I will skip this slide because what is the literature it says about over there. This is a survey of the literature. If we have time, we will come to that later. But what we find in different studies done in the conventional sense, or not necessarily economics, but in sociology and those areas. Most recent is the Gallup News of 2010. They find that each of the most religious countries is relatively poor. And in the world's the poorest countries are the median portion, who say that religion is important in their lives, are more than 95%. So people who are saying that they are religious, if the country is 95% poor, people are saying that they are religious, that country is poor. So in contrast, the median of the richest countries is 47%, that those who said that they are religious, they were just 47% in the developed countries. So people took it as an indication that religion reduces the development, and it is anti-development or contrary to the development. So this is not only the one study, there are many others. For example, this is another one by Pew Research. They asked a question that percentage of people who say that they pray daily. So the blue areas are the countries in which 0 to 19% people said that they pray daily. And the very dark orange are the countries where 80 to 100% people said that they pray daily. This praise can be for Muslims as well as whatever form of prayer for the Christians and whatever their religion is. So as you can see that with the exception of the US, where 55% people said that they pray, in all other countries, the countries in which people are praying more are poor countries. And the countries where people are praying less are developed countries. So again, the development literature uses this as a fact. This is a macro analysis, that as if religiosity is reducing the development. This is another graph, yet another study. In this, on the y-axis, they have taken percentage who say that they pray daily. On the x-axis, it is per capita gross domestic product. And each dot is a different country. So you can see that the graph is downward sloping, that as the GDP per capita is increasing, the percentage of people who are praying is decreasing. And there are different explanations that are given in the literature for that. They say that people become religious because of the difficulties that they face, the uncertainties and the difficulties that they face. So the countries which are poor, they impose more difficulties and then enhance this. So this literature is explaining religion based on poverty. Okay. Yet other graphs which shows that greater income inequality is tied to greater importance of religion. Weekly worship attendance is most common where life is shortest. So on the x-axis, this is the life expectancy. On the y-axis is the religiosity. So where people are living longer, they are less religious. Where people are living less, there is a short span of life, people are more religious.
هذا إسرائيل يمهلهم.
So this is what
هو إذا يضحك معنا يفهم العربي. ما شاء الله.
So this is the macro picture that is coming up. What we did is that we looked into the micro data. We looked from the first of all we created poverty based on that Baqa's Sharia thing, that 5 dimensions. And then, so let me start this thing in a reverse order. Usually a paper will start by giving the what is the method, what is the objective, and then the results will come later. Let me start in a reverse order. That I will pose a question, that the questions we initiated, and then look at the results. So basically we asked very simple 3 questions. Is religiosity similar among multidimensional poor and non-poor? So first of all, we divided people, because of our previous research we have done multidimensional poverty based on Maqasid Sharia. So we have 2 classes of people, poor and non-poor. So we said that, okay, let's look at the religiosity of these people, how religious are poor as compared to non-poor. And we will look at the aggregate level as well as at country level, and this is from the micro data, from their surveys, questionnaire survey.
Doctor, please define multidimensional.
I will come to that. I will come to that.
Because if we don't know the exact definition,
Okay.
it is very vague.
Yes.
Yeah.
The second question that we ask is that, are there any differences in the dimensions of deprivations among high religiosity and low religiosity people? That because we are looking at 5 different dimensions of poverty. So among the poor, among the religious people, in what dimensions they are deprived, and among the non-poor, in what dimensions they are deprived. So question number 1, question number 2, both are simply correlation analysis. There is no causality. We are not saying that because of this is happening. Because of religion is affecting poverty, or poverty is affecting religion. We are simply looking at the correlations between them. Question number 3 has some notion of causality. That's what we ask is, what is the impact of religiosity on multidimensional poverty? And here some sort of causality is there. Now the question was asked that, what is multidimensional poverty? And another question is, what is religiosity? Both things. So multidimensional poverty is based on the objectives of Sharia. We said that protection of life, progeny, intellect, wealth, as well as deen. But we deliberately removed deen from here because we wanted to use it as another criteria for religiosity.
As independent variable.
As independent variable. So in our first paper we have taken poverty based on all 5 factors, but in this paper we are taking poverty based on 4 factors only. That is protection of life, progeny, intellect and wealth, and leaving the religion as an independent variable separately. And how we define, I will come to poverty again in more finer manner, but this is the crude definition. Religiosity, we try to capture the belief and acting on the direct obligations of those beliefs. A person will be called religious if he states that I am religious and he acts according to whatever religion he is following. So there is some. It is also important to understand some terminology. I am going to use terminology deprivation and poverty. Two different things. Because we are looking at 4 or 5 different dimensions, so if a person falls below the minimum required in one dimension, he is deprived in that dimension. Deprived in that dimension, deprived in dimension 3, deprived in dimension 4. A person is poor if he is deprived in more than 2 dimensions. So if a person is deprived in more than 2 dimensions, then we are calling him poor. Otherwise, we are calling him non-poor. So this is our definition of multidimensional poverty.
يعني causes, you mean causes يعني? Causes of poverty?
Yeah, you can
he
say
has
that
4
because
dimensions. If it is more than 2, it is deprived.
if he is falling below certain, let's say, although income is not a dimension over here, wealth is a dimension, but suppose that income was a dimension. So if he has income minimum of a certain level, so he is deprived in the income dimension. If he has health less than a certain level, then he is deprived in health dimension. If he has education less than certain education level, then he is deprived in education. So a person who is deprived in more than 2 dimensions will be classified as poor out of 4, and a person who is deprived less than 2 dimensions will be 2 or less than 2 will be non-poor. So the results that we get, and by the way, this data is, the problem with this approach, with Maqalat Sharia-based approach, is that the data. No organization, country, etc. is collecting data specifically on these issues. And this is a huge issue that what to say about different countries. Even in one single country, you cannot get all the data from one country or from the same household or same unit of analysis. But fortunately, we found that there is an organization called World Value Surveys Organization. That's called WVS, World Value Surveys. They are basically surveying values of the country. They are not concerned with poverty or this or that. They ask questions about religiosity of people. They ask questions about security of the people. They ask questions about their political belief, their political system, etc. So a big questionnaire is used, and every year they conduct surveys in 10-20 countries, and they have been doing different rounds. So we had the round that was available was 2014 round they are calling, but the actual data was collected between 2010 and 2012, which they cleaned and then released in 2014. So this data was available, from which we have collected certain questions. I will come to that later. So in general, perception that religion contributes to poverty or that the poor people tend to be more religious is not true when poverty is measured in more comprehensive multidimensional manner. It may be true when you are using poverty only as income, or if you are looking at GDP per capita or looking at the macro effect, but when you go to micro, it is specifically higher religiosity is not associated with higher multidimensional poverty. Rather, higher religiosity is associated with lower multidimensional poverty. And this result is not only specific to Muslim countries. We found in many other countries. The answer to question number 2, that among the poor and non-poor, among the faith-deprived and non-faith deprived, what are the differences in dimensions of poverty or dimensions of deprivation? So the faith poor are more deprived in their intellect and posterity, and less deprived in life and property dimensions compared to non-faith deprived people. And question number 3 was, what is the implication of religiosity on poverty? So an increase in deprivation of faith increases multidimensional poverty. This is what the results we are getting. And people can argue against that as well, because so this is the answers in the form of data, the actual data. On the x-axis we have the faith deprivation in faith, and the y-axis, this is the multidimensional poverty based on 4 dimensions, and each dot is representing one country. So we had 52 countries. Data was of 52 countries. So each dot is representing one country. So this is just a hypothetical line to show the pattern in the data, and it shows that as the faith deprivation is increasing, multidimensional poverty is also increasing. So how we analyze this question number 1? We simply divided the population into two groups, one which are found multidimensional poor individuals and other group which is non-poor individuals by our method. If I have time, I will come to that method, that how we define that. Some hints I have already given. Then within each group of MD poor individuals, we looked into their faith, because faith variable we had not used, it was left out. So we said that, okay, what is the average faith deprivation among this group of the MD poor individuals, and what is the faith not deprived people, what is the proportion of that? And similarly, same thing was done for the people in the MD non-poor individuals. How many of them are faith deprived and how many of them are non-faith deprived? So that is basically slicing the multidimensional poverty, separated into two groups, the individuals identified as MD poor and individuals identified as MD non-poor. Then for each individual, calculating faith deprivation and analyzing the difference in the mean of the faith deprivation. And this was done at two levels. One at the level of the aggregate data, which is pooled data for all 52 countries, and then on the basis of country by country analysis. When you look at the pooled data, this is the result that mean faith deprivation among the poor is 0.09 and among the non-poor is 0.08. So you can see that people who were non-poor, they were also less deprived in faith, and people who were poor were also more deprived in faith on the aggregate. And this was, we did the statistical testing whether this is statistically significant or not, that is found. Now the same analysis, are you with me in this? That any questions so far?
No, it's okay.
The same thing we did now country by country. That for each country, for example, let's look at Taiwan, for example. This arrow is on Taiwan right now. So we divided them into who are poor and who are not poor, and then looked into faith deprivation of the people who are, how many people are faith deprived in the poor category and how many people are faith deprived in the non-poor category, and then took the ratio or take the difference. So this is the difference of means of the faith deprived among the MD poor versus faith deprived among the non-poor country. And although there were 52 countries, but about 26 results were significant. There were many others which are statistically insignificant, so I'm just plotting it so that you can read over here, otherwise it will be difficult to read. So you can see that in majority of the countries, the faith deprivation among MD, among the MD poor versus faith deprivation among MD non-poor is positive. That is, the poor people were more faith deprived as compared to non-poor people in each country, country by country, except for these three countries, which are Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan and China. Over here the result is reverse. Maybe because of the state control or whatever, that a person who is religious is persecuted or he is in difficulty, so he remains poor. While in other countries, wherever the and what can be the reasons for this? The reasons, as I mentioned earlier, that maybe because of those three channels that I spoke about, that a poor can, first of all, he perseveres, secondly, others help, and thirdly, he also tries to come out of the poverty, because all religions teach that way. This paper is not looking into the content of the religion. For example, Islamic teachings are more on this side as compared to Christianity or in other religions. So this paper is not looking at the impact of the content of religion on the behavior. This paper is simply saying that people who say that I am religious and they abide by action of their religious activity, to what extent these two things, the faith deprivation and poverty, are correlated with each other. Now this is for all 52 countries, the same graph. The blue lines are the ones for the countries in which statistical significant differences between the means are recorded, and the orange lines are the ones which are in the countries in which either the difference was very small or the difference was not statistically significant, that we cannot say anything. So out of the 52 countries, 41 countries show faith deprivation is higher among them the poor. But from the statistical significance point of view, these are 26, I think, 26 countries. Now, I move to question. This was the question 1 result. Question 2, in which what I did in question 2, rather than rather than slicing the population into who is poor and who is non-poor, I slice the population who says that they are religious and who are non-religious, faith deprived and non-faith deprived. The red one, the faith deprived, and non-faith deprived, the green one. So within each group, then I looked into different deprivations in the different dimensions. Deprivation in life, deprivation in intellect, deprivation of posterity, deprivation of wealth. And to see that how this red group, which is faith deprived, compares to the green group, which is not faith deprived. And here are the results. For example, over here on the left graph, posterity deprivation. Faith deprivation versus posterity deprivation. So it is upward sloping, that people who are faith deprived, that is, people who are less religious, are deprived in posterity. They are not taking care, they are not protected much for their future generation. As compared to the right hand graph, again the faith deprived people, as the faith deprivation increases, the intellect deprivation also increases. Now for the other two dimensions, this is the reverse result, that as the faith deprivation increases, life deprivation decreases in this data at least. That and similarly, when the faith deprivation increases, the property deprivation decreases. So people who are less religious maybe are good in their protection of property, they are good in protection of health, but not health necessarily, but life in general. Because I'm not looking only at health, I will come to the question that I've used for these measures. So this is the result. For question number 3, that what is the impact of religiosity on multidimensional poverty? Over here, this is, we are now moving beyond the correlation analysis. We are moving into regression analysis, that we are looking at how to explain poverty based on religion. So poverty is our left hand side variable, dependent variable, and religion and other things are on our right hand side variable. Regression in itself is not causality. As you know, that regression is simply a conditional correlation. It is a correlation which is conditional on some given variables. So that's why I am avoiding the term causality, because whenever you present this as a causality aspect in front of econometricians, there will be question that how you have controlled for reverse causality, that why you are saying that only the poverty is affected by faith. Faith is also affected by poverty. So you have to control for that. So since it is not controlled over here, that's why I am not saying that this is causality. I am simply saying that it is a conditional correlation, that we will look into poverty conditional on faith deprived people, conditional on non-faith deprived. So the left hand side variable or the regressant is the multidimensional poverty on basis of 4 dimensions, and on the right hand side we have taken faith deprived people, the faith deprivation, and log of GDP per capita and some constant, etc. So you can see that faith deprived among non-poor people, the coefficient, this is, I'm looking at column number 4. Column number 4 is regressing poverty on faith deprivation among non-poor, and on log of GDP per capita. So you can see that, and a constant. Only this variable is significant, others are not significant in this. what is wrong in this what is unusual in this regression number 4? Can anybody tell? This is my check, whether I am communicating rightly or not.
This is the
Look at this.
practice. Is the standard deviation or
No, look at this fate deprivation among non-poor.
Okay.
While what was my dependent variable? Poverty. I'm regressing poverty on the faith of non-poor. I should be regressing poverty on the faith of poor to find my relationship. I'm regressing on a different group.
Yeah.
Why I'm trying to do that? Because people can say that I want to control endogeneity. Okay. That people who are poor and faith deprived, they can be correlated for some reason automatically, because of some third factor which is affecting both, and hence the regression will not be a genuine result. So I'm trying to look into an instrument which is not direct. So I looked into
like an instrumental variable.
It's kind of instrumental variable. So I'm looking at the group which is the fate
Supposed to
deprivation
have
of
a negative.
non-poor. The other group.
Supposed to be a negative instead
Yes.
of positive.
So and I found the negative relation.
Okay.
I mean, in the negative in the sense that poverty is increasing if the fate deprivation among non-poor is increasing. In the sense that if the society as a whole is lesser in faith, then we expect poverty to be more in that society because there will not be helping.
Yeah.
And moreover, since these are different people from the poor that we are looking at, so the what you call a endogeneity problem may be lesser. So that's why I use this variable. And this is the reason that this is column 4, because I had tested column 1, column 2, column 3, different regressions, but we know that there are problems of endogeneity. But still endogeneity is not removed.
Sorry,
So-
is this the number of observation? 51.
The number of observations are, because this is equation 4 is on country level. So there were 52 countries. So one country data is not available for, let's say, GDP per capita, etc. So there are 51 countries. Number of observations are written on this line. 51 observations are. This is country level observations. Then what I did is that the problem literature cites is that people become religious when they are in difficulty. If they are poor, they will be religious. So again, endogeneity issue. So how to control for that? Recently a paper came out which was, I will not go into that detail. What they did was that they lived into the age of the person, because they said that religiosity of a person, I'm talking about another paper that has come in the literature, that religiosity of people changes in their early phase of life and in the later phase of life, but it remains constant in between. In the early phase, when they are 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years of age, either they become more religious or they go against the religion. So religiosity of the person develops during their early phase. It changes a lot. Similarly, it changes a lot when they become old. Maybe because they have more time to think, or they contemplate on things, so they become more religious. The religiosity can change.
أو يتحدث عليك.
قربوا من القبر
يتحدث عليك ليش تتخبى أنت وراي؟
So, but in between,
الشاشة.
the religiosity doesn't change that much because of personal circumstances. So, what we did in the column number 6 is stable age sample. We have taken the people who are between the age of 24 and 56 and looked at the religiosity of those people, excluding the others.
سن الرشد.
Yeah, Rushd.
Just only 2 years, 25 and 26.
Yeah, 25 and 55. People who
النبوة في
are,
الأربعينات تجي.
and what is their religiosity? and see the relationship between the poverty. And again, we get a good result that you can see that now I don't have to look into non-poor people for food deprivation. I can look directly to the food deprivation among the poor, because I expect that this endogeneity problem is reduced by this design. Now, we don't stop at that. We went further because usually you can also do another kind of instrumental variable by two-stage least square. We wanted to avoid that. In what happens in two-stage least square, you regress some variables on a variable to get an estimate of that variable, like let's say of the religion of fate deprivation, and then use that estimate in the original equation, because now that estimate is free from errors. Our problem was that we wanted to use the data from the same set. I mean, if this is household survey, we are asking for the question in 5 dimensions from the same person. But when you use this kind of 2SLS method, then you have to use some other variables. So you lose that richer thing that we want. But anyway, we did that as well just to test. Again, we find that this is positive and statistically significant. So this is what I have explained, that we basically were looking at what is the effect on poverty of fate deprivation, and there is an endogeneity problem, and because there can be a direct effect as well as there can be reverse effect, and we try to control for that in the way. Now this was the gist of the paper. I mean, this is what we got. Now the rest is the details that you ask question, that how we measure poverty. The question is that what variables went into other things. So I will just I will skip these for
only 5 minutes.
5 minutes or 15 minutes?
No, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. This was, in addition to this analysis, this analysis is completed in the paper that the Institute's Journal has published. Afterwards, we also did a logic analysis on the same thing. So I will not go into that, but and by the way, this is not my paper only. This is myself and Hamid Hassan. We are 2 co-authors in that. So we did logic analysis, and that similar results we are getting. In the logic, what is the advantage is that you are basically looking at what is the probability of probability of getting poor if you are fate deprived. In the previous it was simply correlation. Now you are looking at expectation. So I will skip that, and I will come to details. Conclusion, I have shown that there were 3 questions, the 3 results. The results are showing that in the individual level data, not in the macro level data, in the individual level data, people who show more religiosity are found to be less poor. And this was on the aggregate for 52 countries, and this was on individual country basis as well.
Contradicts the conventional.
Yes.
Yeah, because conventional thing is coming on the macro. On the macro picture is that this is true in the macro picture.
The income as well.
Yes. And the amount of data that we have used is, I forgot to mention this when we looked at equation 6, the column 6. In this column, on column 7, you can see that how many variables we have used. 72,804 records we have in that. Let me come to what is it? Theory is explained, theory of religion is explained, poverty is explained. Okay, what is the methodology? I'm now going to detail that how we measured the poverty and how we measured it. First of all, you have to select some key dimension. We selected those 5 dimensions, and we separated the 4, and one was separate. Then the issue is select indicators for each dimension. Define achievements and minimum required level of achievement in each of the indicators. That how much a person has achieved and what was the minimum required. And how to identify the poor. Define the dimensional deprivations cutoff. Count the deprivations to obtain the poverty head count. That is, in our case, out of 4, if a person is deprived in 3 or 4 dimensions, he is poor. If he is deprived in 1 or 2 dimensions, he is not poor. analyze and slice the data by poverty, slice the data by face, and see the difference in different methods, etc. And we have used the World Value Survey. This is their website from which the data is available, and you can freely download it. And now, what are the variables that we actually used? If you can see on your screen, in the faith dimension, we have used 4 variables. Variable 145, 146, 148 from their survey. What is the first variable? It asks the question, attendance in the religious services, whether you attend or not. Frequency of prayers, this is a question that is asked in the survey in different countries. Whether you consider yourself as a religious or non-religious person or atheist person. Your belief in God, do you believe in God or do not believe in God? These were the questions that were asked in different countries, in a different format, depending upon the religion of the country. And this is what we have put the deprivation cutoff, that if you have achieved 6 points, then you are not poor, you are not deprived, otherwise you are deprived. Because this question was asked in a different manner. It was not a yes or no question. It was in different shades. Similarly, in the life dimension, we asked freedom of choice in life, preferred not to go out at night.
These questions that you have selected, are these the only ones available in the World Survey, or you have chosen from the World Survey?
In the World Value Survey, there are many questions, but not everything was related to faith. So one that was related to faith, we picked.
Yes.
Whatever were available for faith. Whatever was relevant to life protection from the perspective of Maqasid Sharia. We picked them that, for example, one of the Maqasid Sharia is to protect the life. So a question, for example, whether you prefer not to go out at night. This was a question, long question, which was basically a security question. That because of the crime in your area, do you prefer going out, not prefer going out in the night? So, highly agree, slightly agree, do not agree, this kind of things. Similarly, the question is whether or not an immediate family member is victim of the crime last year, yes or no type of question. Similarly, the possibility of war, a war involving my country, possibility of terrorist attacks. So these were the questions that the World Value Survey were asking. We are not asking, we are just picking things which can show us security of life from there. And similarly, some questions related to, for example, how often gone without enough food to eat in the last week. Very often, very rarely, people had to take. So we felt unsafe from crime in your own house. Similarly, there were questions about intellect, not being able to give my children a good education, highest level of education, alcohol consumption in streets in your area, drug sale in the streets in your area. So a person who is more religiously conscious maybe would like to move out from this community. Can vote by feet. But if not religiously conscious, maybe this cost is lesser to them. But the long-term effects are more. So this is this kind of on the wealth, satisfaction with financial situation, occurrence of robberies in your neighborhood, worry about losing jobs, not which income group you belong to, etc. So you can see that the questions are not as exact as Maqasid Sharia would require. But this is what you have available freely in the World Value Survey. And that you can also use not only for Muslim countries but for non-Muslim countries. So this is the way which we use to devise a method in which to classify people as poor and non-poor. And then we look into their religiosity. This is, for example, example question from World Value Survey. Apart from weddings and funerals, how often do you attend religious services these days? Number one, more than once a week, once a month, only on special holidays, once a year, less often, never.
About 5 times a day.
Yeah, so this question is not
available.
Yes, not available, and that's why if you are looking at the faith dimension in the Muslim country, everyone will be faithful.
Yeah.
According to this, you cannot discriminate. You have to put some other questions to discriminate people, to distinguish people. Similarly, independently of whether you attend religious service or not, would you say you read out, would you say yourself, you are a religious person, not a religious person, an atheist, etc. Do you believe in God, yes or no? These kind of questions. And you can see that this is, for example, another set of questions from, please tell me, for each of the following actions, whether you think it can always be justified or never be justified, or something is in between, using this grid. Question number 1, claiming government benefits to which you are not entitled. So you can say that it is always justified, and you can say that it is never justified. You can put in between anything. Avoiding a fare on a public transport. You are moving and if you can ride the bus without paying, how do you feel about that? Stealing property, how do you feel about that? Homosexuality, what is your view on that? Prostitution, whether you think it is justified, it can never be justified. If something in between, it can sometimes be justified. Suicide, for a man to beat his wife, parents beating their children, etc. So these are different questions that we used to capture the social values that people have.
You have used all of the world.
All these are in the World Value Survey, and you can always go to their website and download the entire survey.
Yes.
And then,
But just because he has used the word we.
so this is, I will stop over here, and any questions, and I can come to that.
Jazakallah khair. Can you put this? Thank you very much, Dr. Salman, for this intellectual work and for your contribution. Now we will start the questions. But before we start the questions, I would like you to comment on this idea. We here in the Institute are teaching for the master program and PhD program that we are going to have closely, inshallah. We are teaching macroeconomics courses. And we call our topic Islamic macroeconomics. In communicating with our students, we try to, as much as we can, to impose and define these special areas where Islam values have different views. In my opinion, your paper comes in this point when you are dealing with poverty and what is the relation between development and poverty and religion. I think maybe a more concise research work could be done to really relate this work in the economic theory, in the economic development theory, so we can have our own theory here, even if it is only 4 or 5 pages, that we can, introduce to our students that, look, because of religion, we have a different, conclusions, we have a different factors that are affecting our theory and so on. Maybe later on I can have some, opinions about this. Now I will give the floor to Dr. Saadi.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تعليقات سريعة جدا. أول مرة الهدف من الورقة كان رياكشن أو ردة فعل لنتائج لدراسات تعارض اتجاهنا، فكان المحفز لها كيف ممكن نرد عليهم وليست معالجة قضية عندنا أو مشكلة عندنا. هذه واحد. والشيء الثاني
هذه كتبتها الآن
معناته أنا قشتها منك.
لا بالعكس.
والشيء الثاني أخذنا الميثودولوجي والمنهج نفسهم عشان تخاطب القوم بلغتهم، فاتبعنا نفس المنهجية واللي تختلف كلية عن منهجيتنا يفترض. لأنه بنتكلم عن الفقر يعني هذا كونسبت مفهوم له علاقة بالفيس بالعقيدة بحاجات كثيرة ومفهومه وكيف، فإذا هذا مختلف مفهومنا للفقر والرزق والبرد، هذه حاجات كلها مفاهيم عندنا ما تنطبق ولا معنى عندهم. فعشان كده نحن نتكلم بلغتهم واللي ما لها علاقة بنا ولا تمسنا في شيء، لأن نحن تعريفها مختلف. إذا الموضوع نفسه لما نعالجه نحن، إذا كان نبغى نتكلم عن الفقر وعن الدين وعن التنمية وعن النمو والتنمية المستدامة، هذا يجب أن يكون طريقة مختلفة كلية. لما نجي نشوف الإدخالات الإسلامية فيها، أخذوا المقاصد الشرعية حلو، which is هذا شيء يفترض من المفاهيم الموجودة عندنا، لكن كيف أدخلت؟ إنها ترجمت إلى معايير أو مؤشرات كمية، وبالتالي أخذت هذه المؤشرات الكمية أيضا من مقاييسهم. هنا شفنا الواطة، شفنا المدرسة من مقاييسها. يا أخي هذا محاربة كلية اللي عندنا، ما نقدر الراجل إيش رأيك فيه يسمح ولا ما، لا درجة أنت تعرف. فإذا حتى المؤشرات اللي وضعت عشان تترجم المقاصد الشرعية كانت بمقاييسهم، لكن في النهاية بمقاييسهم بمعاييرهم. إذا نتكلم إنه ما هو فائدتنا من هذا البحث من الجهد الكبير. لاحظ استخدمنا الطرق الكمية في إثبات خطأ وجهة نظرهم في أنه والله الدين له علاقة موجبة بالفقر، يعني نبغى ننفي هذه العلاقة. فاستخدمنا نفس الطرق الكمية الموجودة عندهم، والإيكونومتريكس والكوروليشن والانسترومنتال فاريبل واللوجيت أناليسيس كله. هنا نقول لهم نحن ما أقل منكم في طرق التحليل وفي إثبات، نستخدم نفس الطرق اللي أثبتوها، لكن في النهاية هو تمرين للرد. هم ما راح يعترفوا به ولا يفيدهم في شيء. أنتم لكم دينكم ولنا دين. النقطة اللي توصل لها البحث في عندنا مثال يقول
التدين هنا هل هو مقصود به
الإسلام؟
نحن الإسلام؟
لا نحن مفهوم التدين عندنا يختلف، عشان كده أنا
بس الرواية ما لها علاقة بالدين الإسلامي بالذات.
إيه لا أنا ما بقول لك الدين، نحن ديننا الدين الوحيد، وغير الأديان ديننا ما هو دين ونعترف. فتعريفهم للأديان يختلف عن تعريفنا، فما لنا الشغل به طالما إنه هو بيتنافى مع مفهومنا للدين. آخر كلمة يعني النتائج اللي توصل لها إنه الفقر هناك في علاقة موجبة أو يعني في ارتباط موجب بين الفقر وقلة الديانة. عندنا مثل يقول فقر النقر، يقول درب الخمارة فين؟
مكاوي هذا.
وشو قبل المدنية يا شيخ؟
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Very short questions. Two questions. One is that the Brunei is considered one of the richest Muslim, one of the richest countries in the world. So did you cover Brunei in this survey, and if not, why you did not cover? Number one. Second question is that. Second question is that do you research or finding?
No, answer after we finish.
Does your finding covers the other way around? That means the poor people is less religious. The poor people is less religious. These are two questions.
I think I should take two people and then answer. Otherwise, I will forget by the end of the.
Yes, right.
If you write a note, please. No, this is the normal
Bring your
procedure.
pen and pencil. And paper to write.
I will give you my
Drop my pencil.
يلا دكتور عدنان.
اسمع، اللي يريد أن ينشر في مجلة المعهد يسكت.
لا ينتقد الورقة. أنا ما عندي نية أنشرها.
Because I want him to listen to the questions, otherwise he will not be able to. If you finish, I will.
Yeah, finish.
Professor Maso.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to comment on this particular presentation. Thank you very much, Dr. Said Salman. It's excellent presentation. and we appreciate. But please forgive me, I apologize in advance, because it's just not for the interest of anything, but for the interest of our institute and the interest of our intellectual, this forum actually. So if I ask you some direct question, please forgive me. I just apologize in advance. Now, to my humble observation, this particular paper presentation and the paper that you have submitted, it is the original of it's the original paper of the IRT, that's working paper series WP/2018/06. It was published to 27th of September 2018, but it has never been acknowledged here. I believe it is a funded research, and I believe, I'm not sure, funded research, and it should be acknowledged. I don't know how is the copyright issue actually on this. Second issue here, I think this particular paper has been presented at different occasions actually previously. First is it was presented in IRT on the 9th of October 2018. Then again it was presented on the 5th of May 2019. Again it was presented at Rifa University in Pakistan at the Center of Islamic Business. And then it was again submitted here in our Hayward, because in Hayward I believe we are not students, we are intellectual for the community here. We want to learn something new. What is new, as Dr. Ibrahim has highlighted, we just need 4 or 5 pages actually. It's something new. So now we couldn't get something new here. Again, the paper was published is different occasions actually, and it was, I don't know how the issue can be handled. First, it was published, part of the research published in Journal of Islamic Business and Management, JIBM, at 2018, volume 8, number 1, page 20 to 36. It was published. Secondly, it was published in IDS. Thirdly, it was again submitted to our journal, Scopa journal here. And I'm quite surprised that actually how can it was published without acknowledging, none of the places has been acknowledged that this is a working paper of IRT. It's a very serious issue, and the working paper series. And it was published in our journal, in July recently. And now, as we know that in the second page of the cover of our journal is strictly mentioned, because this is going to be indexed very soon in the ISI, inshallah. So now, we have to put our the issue here actually as second page of the journal, which clearly mentioned that Islamic Economics Institute of King Abdullah's University is the copyright owner of this particular journal. When I see your paper is copy and paste and distributed among 62 intellectuals, and which is published and which is presented in the forum actually. Now part of no part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, translated or transmitted in any form or any means, etc., etc. That is a serious copyright issue. So that's why, Dr. Salman, I need your good response, because of we don't want to be in trouble actually, because of we means here our institute. We are intellectual platform actually. So this is a serious copyright issue. One is the involving IRT, another involving our institute at King Abdullah's University. So this is this issue. Next issue here is as you mentioned that what do you call this?
I promised you 5 minutes. It's just finished now. If we can give the room to others, please.
That's 1 minute finished.
هو أخذ وقت عدنان.
Now the wave, as you mentioned, the wave, it is not what you mentioned here. Your presentation is outdated. I'm so sorry for that, because as you mentioned, there is no data. Actually, there is a data. Your data is up to 2014, but it is again further. It is published with updated data in 2015, September 8, 2015. It is again published 2016, December 6, 2016. It is published in 2017, 27 November 2017. Again published again 2018, 27 November 2018. It is published partly
What is
published?
What is published? The data you mean?
Wait, the wall value survey.
Yeah, but he has to finish his research in a specific date. Otherwise, he cannot write. If you want
I'm talking about
to
this presentation actually. I'm not talking about the research.
No. The research has to stop in a specific
we
date.
need up to date, Dr. Ibrahim. We need up to date. We don't need the about 5 years ago is data. The data is overruled already. Now the latest data is in July 2019.
Yeah, Dr. Masoom, when you are writing a paper, there is a limitation that you will.
I'll answer it later.
Okay.
I couldn't agree. Anyway, because we need up-to-date information.
Can we stop here, please, to give room to the others?
Okay.
You have to more than 5 minutes now. Brother Masoom, Brother Yahya, عفوا يحيى, Professor Munawar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think the approach is very good. Of course, the data a researcher uses at a certain point of time and then start doing the research. But Professor Masoom's point that later data is available, maybe an updated version can take care of it. But the other issues, Dr. Salman will answer whether there are copyright issues or not. My question is only one, basically. That on the one hand, Dr. Salman has broadened the horizon, which I like, that not restricting it to Islam only, but religion, all Jews, Christianity, and within Christianity, Catholic, Protestant, and Buddha, etc. But on the other hand, he is still pegged with the Maqasid al-Sharia. So the Maqasid al-Sharia are specific to Islam. They are not applicable or not as applicable or not, they may be different from other religions. So on the one hand, you are trying to become more general, which is good. But then you peg it to Maqasid al-Sharia. Is there any justification for that? And specifically, that there are the variables that we are using, and that's the second question, but related one. Since you are taking the variables available, of course, you cannot collect data on the variables that you want. So you choose the variables, but those variables sometimes will not directly fit into the, I cannot go into details, that you, variable 5 or 6 variables that you chose for life. They may be as much relevant as for progeny, for example, divorce. For example, the issue of beating the children, is it a issue of life or is it a variable which is goes to some other qiyam al-Islamiyya? So the idea is that if you take a general approach to the religions, then perhaps you need to change your terminology from Maqasid al-Sharia to some other terminology which is as general as your intention is.
Thank you, Dr. Salman, for your presentation. Just I have a question about results, the robustness of results.
Robust results.
About the results of your regression, of your estimation. Some estimations are done for a short number of individuals, countries, 51 countries. And we having this short period from 2010 to 2014 with a short sample, this combination can lead to robustness in your results. The period is very short.
Period is very short from 2010 to 2012.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, the number of individuals, the country's number is 51.
Okay.
So in this case, the estimation, result of estimation, we can have bias in your estimation.
I mean, what is the reason for bias? That
because we can have
He's
short
talking
period
about
with
pooling time series and
no, time series. Just one. It is spot.
it's a panel.
Yeah. Not just panel.
It's only one observation. It's not
Per
even a
country,
period.
it is not a panel.
It's not a period.
Yes. In addition, in your estimation, you have only just one variable. Okay, just one independent variable to explain the dependent variable.
Okay.
This is another factor which can lead also to a bias in your estimation. We have three factors or three elements. The short period. Normally with short period we should have a big number of individuals or a short number of individuals with a big number of observation. Okay. In addition to that, in your estimation, irrespective the period and the individuals, you have chosen only one variable to explain the independent variable. It's the simple type of regression, simple regression. Okay, how can we learn from your results regarding this estimation? Explaining a variable, poverty, with only one variable.
There are more than one
the
variable.
second issue.
Okay, I'll come to that.
Okay. Thank you.
There are more than one variable.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام.
I would like to thank you, Dr. Salman, for this paper. Actually, this is my first time to expose myself on this type of analysis. I admit that I'm not a religious person, or neither non-religious person, but I'm a semi, or let's say a moderate. So would you be able to define?
From the perspective of the World Value Survey or from the perspective of a Muslim country?
From the perspective of the value survey or from the perspective of Islam. So would you be able to define what would be the semi or the moderate or in between? This is really crucial to me to understand exactly the topic. And to be honest, that what Professor Menor Iqbal has said, that if you implement maqasid al-sharia, it should be ethical values that could be implemented to all religious or let's say other non-holy religions. Thank you so much.
دكتور أحمد.
إذا أنت لورنس العرب إذا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول المرسلين.
اللهم صل على سيدنا.
Well, thank you, Dr. Salman, for sharing with us these results of your research, of your co-authored research. With the nature of such empirical research, depends really hard on defining the variables. So you have resorted to WVS, and of course they do have their approach. Are you with me, Doctor?
Yeah.
And you have used they have their own approach in defining and collecting this data, and you have added also to complicate the situation, and this will affect the objectivity of the variables themselves and how accurate to what you are going to measure is the maqasid al-sharia. Have you resorted to, how you have combined, because we need to go into details, how you have, for instance, the four dimensions of the maqasid al-sharia, and then the faith, and how compatible the data available in the WVS to come out to a clear-cut measures of such broad concepts in the Sharia. There is really a big here problem that I think, to my understanding, it might affect the objectivity and the biasness of the study. So this is, of course, one approach, and as Dr. Abdul Rahim Saati said, probably we will have another approach. And I think since you are working in the IDB with OIC, then to go and study the real life in the Muslim communities. I think this will be really, and of course we can go also to some other African countries and do what we say a field research this really, I think, will have more, more implications for policy, more, appropriateness for policy implications and for implementing such good measures. But of course, if you intend, as you said from the beginning, that you would like to, argue against what is available in the literature, of course, that's another dimension. But if we would like to tackle what is going on and how, religion and poverty are related in a multi-dimensional level, because, for instance, if we look into the Islamic literature, we know that there is a big question. هل الغني الشاكر أفضل أم الفقير الصابر? Okay, so this is also the literature has affected, and we know that there is a trend in the Muslim world. Do we accept it or not? The Sufis who tend to make zuhd in this life. So I think, of course, there are many ways how to conduct the research and to have good results that will really affect the lives of our Muslim societies. Thank you. Salam.
دكتور أحمد، بس تعليق. هناك فرق بين الزهد والفقر.
المهم يعني ما فرق بسيط.
دكتور.
No comment.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد
إصلاحي هو يريد ينشر
وصحبه أجمعين. Excuse me that you will ask in Arabic if Dr. Ibrahim translate.
لا هو يفهم. If I don't understand, I will ask him. But if I understand, there is no problem.
First of all, أول شيء حقيقة فيما يتعلق بمفهوم الفقر, the concept of poverty. يعني في الإسلام عندنا الفقر هو عدم ملك الشيء. إنما الصدقات للفقراء. فما في عندنا أي مشكلة في تعريف الفقر بأنه one dimension, not multi-dimension. طيب هو فقر يعني طبعا هناك خلاف بين الفقر والمسكنة, يعني هذا ما ابغى ادخل في الخلاف هذا, ايهما اشد, هل المسكين اكثر, يعني هل المسكين من يملك يعني ما لا يكفي والفقير من لا يملك, او يعني هناك خلاف بين الفقهاء ايهما اشد, الفقر ام المسكنة, لا داعي للدخول فيها. لكن مفهوم الفقر عندنا هو مفهوم عدم, او خلينا نقول قلة, يعني على القولين وجود الملك. يعني أنا عندي مشكلة ما أعرف حقيقة في إدخال الدين في القياس. هل المؤشرات هذه دقيقة؟ عدد مرات الصلاة هل هي دقيقة في التدين؟ يعني ممكن ناس صلوا 5 مرات والله أقل دينا, يعني لا نستطيع أن نعتبرها في وجهة نظري ليست مؤشرات دقيقة جدا, على أن الشخص قد يعبر أحيانا بخلاف. يعني قضية الاعتقاد يعني فيها شدة تبسيط شديدة جدا. الناس ليسوا على مرتبة واحدة في الاعتقاد. يعني إيمان أبي بكر ليس كإيماننا اليوم. يعني كلنا نعتقد بوجود الله سبحانه وتعالى, وكلنا نؤمن بوجود الله, لكن أيضا الإيمان يعني مراتب عالية. إيمان أبو بكر يعني غير إيمان بقية الناس. قضية الإيمان يزيد وينقص بالطاعة هذه قضية أخرى. أنا لا أريد أن أعدد الآن, لكن أقول أنا عندي مشكلة, أنا في ذاتي عندي مشكلة في إدخال الدين في الاقتصاد القياسي وإدخاله في النماذج القياسية. ويعني مهما حاولنا نوجد مؤشرات, يمكن أن نوجد مؤشرات على بعض الأشياء, مثلا أبغى والله مدخن أو غير مدخن, يعني هذا ما يمكن. أستخدم المتغيرات الصورية, الدم فاريبل ممكن, لكن الدين صعب شوية. أنا ما يعني فيما يتعلق بمعنى يعني قضية أثر الدين على الفقر, يعني ما يعني بدون دخول في القياس. يعني نحن عندنا في 6 من 10 المبشرين بالجنة هم أغنياء. 6 من 10 المبشرين بالجنة يعني منهم أعلى الناس إيمانا رضي الله عنهم وارضاهم جميعا. أبو بكر وعلي وعثمان رضي الله عنهم, وطلحة بن عبيد الله والزبير بن عوام وعبد الرحمن, يعني هؤلاء كانوا أغنياء. ومن المسلمين ذوي الإيمان العالي أيضا من كانوا فقراء جدا
شديد الفقر.
فأنا ما يعني في عندي إشكال في قضية
في عندي إشكال آخر فقط لا أريد أن أطيل في الكلام أيضا في قضية يعني الذي فهمته طبعا صعب المتابعة باللغة الإنجليزية لكن الذي فهمته أنه لا نبحث في قضية الدين الإسلامي في يعني أي دين أي اعتقاد هذا لا يفيدنا في شيء في البحث عنه. طيب صرنا اعتقاد طيب الهندوسي أيضا عنده اعتقاد والكونفوشيوسي عنده اعتقاد وكل واحد عنده اعتقاد بوجود إله ليس بالضرورة أن يكون صحيحا يعني. فيعني ماذا يفيدنا في نهاية البحث هذا بالنسبة لنا نحن كمسلمين؟ لو ركزنا البحث مثلا على في قضية الاعتقاد الإسلامي وكذا يمكن أن يكون على ما في ذكرت المشاكل. شكرا لكم
دكتور عمر.
شكرا. أنا أتبرع بوقت للدكتور عبد الرزاق.
ما شاء الله. إذا أنتم 6 لأن أنا كتبت
ما في بعد واحد يتبرع له.
أنا آخر واحد.
الدكتور حسن والدكتور إصلاحي وعندك يحيى
ما حد يتبرع لك ترى الدكتور عمر بس
عمر يتبرع أنا بس أنا اللي
أتبرع لك بدقيقة واحدة بس ترى.
دكتور نازل لنفسهم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. خلاص يعني أوقفوا التشغيل. أوكي إيش معناها؟ الإشكالية في الاقتصاديين أنهم يحاولوا أن يتطرقوا إلى هذه القضايا الكبرى يعني هي فقط رأيت بالمنظور الاقتصادي. إيش معناها؟ أن هذا التدين هو مفهوم يعني ظهر إيش معناه؟ هو مفهوم حديث يعني ظهر في علم الاجتماع. رأيت هو مفهوم حديث ظهر في علم الاجتماع. علم الاجتماع هو يفترض أن الدين هو فعل اجتماعي. إيش معنى الدين فعل اجتماعي؟ أن المجتمعات هي التي تخلق رأيت يعني آلهتها
وقيامها الأخلاقي.
ليش؟ يعني هم يعني رأيت يعني هم يعني تطرقوا إلى هذا المفهوم لأن هذا المفهوم هو إيش يفيد في جملة أن إيش معناها؟ معناها هذه الأديان الكبرى رأيت الإسلام ورأيت النصرانية من عند هنا عندما هي يعني اندثرت هذا لا يعني في هذه المجتمعات هو غياب الإيمان بأي شيء. هو غياب الإيمان بأي شيء. رأيت الدليل أنه أحد المؤرخين الأمريكيين في علوم التكنولوجيا رأيت يعني قرأت له قبل رأيت 2 أو 3 سنوات إيش قال أن التكنولوجيا هي تؤدي نفس الوظيفة التي تؤديها الأديان. إيش معناها؟ أنك يعني أنت بدلا من أنك أنت تلجأ إلى هذه الأشياء الأخرى أنت اكتب يعني بحث فقط. إذا هذه المجتمعات بين قوسين هي المتطورة إذا كانت هي تؤمن بهذا الدين الجديد هو التكنولوجيا إذن هي تناقض رأيتنا نفسها لأنها هي تؤمن بهذا الدين وهي رأيتهم يقولون أن هذه الدول التي تؤمن رأيت بالإسلام وهكذا يعني أغلب هذه الدول هي فقيرة. المسألة الأخرى وهي في تقديري هذه هي أهم مسألة. أنا صراحة يعني كمسلم في بداية هذا القرن العشرين أنا أفتخر أنني مسلم وأنني فقير بهذا المفهوم الذي تروجه هذا الدول الصناعية. إيش معناها أنك أنت فقير؟ أنت فقير لأنك رأيت إيش معناها؟ معناها رأيت أنا فقير لأنني رأيت ليست عندي القدرة على شراء يعني هذه المنتجات. إيش هذه المنتجات؟ المنتجات التي يعني تنتجها هذه الدول هي التي تقول لي أنني أنا فقير. وهذا أمر طبيعي وهذا أمر يعني طبيعي إذا كنت أنا لست في حاجة إلى هذه المنتجات. إذا رأيت لست في حاجة لكي أنتج هذه المنتجات. إذا رأيت يعني وفق GDP يعني هذا الأساس معناها أن هذه الدول التي هي ليست في حاجة لإنتاج هذه المنتجات التي تنتجها هذه الدول رأيت الفقيرة على أساس يعني هذا طبيعي أنه على أساس هذا GDP أنه هذه الدول هي تصنف أنها هي على هامش يعني هذا التنمية. الأمر الآخر الأخير، الأمر الآخر والأخير أنا أبحث. نعم، رأيت كثيرا ما تترجم في الأدبيات الإنجليزية حفظ المال، أنه رأيت حفظ الثروة، رأيت هذا أنه هذه الترجمة هي غير دقيقة، لأنه هذا المفهوم المال في الأدبيات العربية والإسلامية هو أوسع من إيش معناها، حصروا هذا المال في هذا الجانب المادي. رأيت أنا أنصحك ورأيت أنك أنت تقرأ هذا. إيش معناها في هذه الشهر أنا عندي بحث، رأيت عنوان البحث هو حدود مؤشرات الغنى رأيت في نعم حدود مؤشرات الغنى والفقر في ضوء الأموال الزكوية. رأيت هذا إيش معنى هذه الورقة، هي تنتقد رأيت هذه المقاربة التي تصنف الناس على أساس امتلاك النقود. رأيت ولذلك عندما أشار الدكتور سعد، رأيت الأموال الزكوية، رأيت هذه التي الاقتصاديين أغلب الباحثين في الاقتصاد الإسلامي يقولون احنا في الوقت في القرن ال21، رأيت احنا في هذا العالم الرقمي وهكذا، وأنتم تتحدثون على هذا البقر والإبل والزروع وهكذا. إيش معناها؟ هذا المفاهيم رأيت هي تحمل رأيت سبحان الله. ولذلك أنه هذا إيش معناها عندما تقول إخراج الزكاة برأية الزروع والإبل والبقر وهكذا، إيش معناها؟ هذا دليل هو يدل على أن هذا المفهوم الإسلامي هو غير قائم أساسا على امتلاك النقود.
شكرا جزيلا. دكتور تفضل.
Okay, thank you very much for questions and comments. So some of the from Brother Abbas, I got comments, but I could not get what the question is. So many comments on that. Let me cover one by one. If I forget something, then please remind me that. The question is asked that poor are less religious. Yes or no? In this data, what we are saying is that we are defining poverty not only in income or only in wealth. We said that poverty is a more comprehensive issue, and to measure that, when you are measuring it poverty in more comprehensively, then this data is telling us that people who are poor in this sense, in this comprehensive sense, are also those who are deprived in faith. And people who are non-poor in this comprehensive sense, they are also those who are less deprived in faith. And there is a logic behind that, on the aggregate, what does a faith deprived means? A person who is faith deprived will be acting not based on faith. He may be acting on other rationalities or whatever, but not on faith. Most of the religions, whether Islam or non-Islam, they teach ethics and they change the behavior of a person. And poverty is not simply, or this comprehensive poverty is not simply the name of lack of income or lack of mal. It is lack in many dimensions, and that comes about because of the lifestyle. It comes because of the perception that you have. The person who is, let's say, deprived in progeny, is not because he is deprived in the sense that he cannot marry or he doesn't have children. It is because of the lifestyle that he has adopted, and those lifestyles are not affected by religion. So the paper is not going into that we are not looking into the channels in that, because as I mentioned that earlier, that
but you
usually
do
there
not
are
define
things-
religious by itself. You do not define what you mean by the religious.
Religion.
Religion, yes.
Again, I will come to that. People are confusing between. I am not looking at how religious you are.
Yes.
No. What is the religion? What is the religiosity?
Okay, that was defined by two aspects. One aspect is whether or not you claim iqrar, you are religious, iqrarun bil lisan. And the second aspect is about your action, tasdiquhu bil amal.
So is it, it's still on the definition of religion. For example, the atheist people, they have a religious, which is they believe in material life.
Okay.
This is religious because they have that faith. In that case, so there is not Islamic, Christianity, and Buddhism.
You are right. In that case, it is not. This is not discriminating. This is looking at the specific question that we looked into the survey. Do you believe in God or no? Do you describe yourself as a religious or non-religious person? Do you pray, and do you pray frequently? These are the questions that basically. So the first two of them, I took it as a iqrar, that you accept
so
that you are
you
religious.
limit yourself to the revealed religious?
No, not to what is available in the W.
What is available?
No. I'm talking about the definition. Like other talk, the atheist people or the al-ilmaniyin, they have their own religion.
No. Because
هذا دين.
Doctor, I think he will answer,
No,
because
that
he would
deen is
like
called-
to have a quantitative, I think, and causality, not causality, but to look into what's.
No, I got the point. They have the deen. What
have
they
a
call,
deen.
What is that deen called?
Their God is material, money.
Yeah.
They worship money.
They call
This is a
themselves
deen.
atheists, right?
No.
They call themselves atheists, or they don't believe in God.
No, but their God actually is the money.
In the money.
Yeah, so they have their own religious.
So what I think he's going to say, that there is no one on this earth who is not religious.
Yes.
There is no one.
Okay.
Yes.
لا يوجد أحد في الأرض إلا وعنده دين.
صح.
To divide the people from
it
the
doesn't
first
discriminate
instance.
against that. It is the analysis is looking only on the questions and basically believe in God and how you act on that.
Yes.
So
I think in the simple answer, you've been limited by the available data in the WAS.
and the second thing that I want to answer is that we
The
are
available
not
concept of religion.
we tried not to look at the, because people are talking about aqidah and others, we are not looking at the aqidah of the person or how much money he has. We were trying to look at the protections that are available. Protections that are available, protection in deen, protection in mal, protection in this, and that's why the question is how safe you feel going out during the night. That kind of questions are basically looking at the protections that are available and the values that you have. And the religion question is about the values that you have and those kind of things, that because those values provide protection in certain direction. So otherwise, to ask, it is never possible to quantify religion. It is never possible to quantify the iman, that how much iman. This is hidden. This is not something which is quantifiable and not even desired to be quantified. Not to, even if you can create an instrument, that is not something which is desirable. What the objective is, given the data, or if we have more available opportunity to collect our own data, then we will look for the protections that are available for that. For example, how easy it is to go for prayers, how easy it is, the masajid is nearby, whether the system is helping you by closing the shops, etc., to go to the prayer. So what protections are there for the deen? In the original paper that we wrote long time ago, not 2014, we started with the hadith that person cannot move from the front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during Qiyamah, unless he answered 5 questions. Yes.
Four
questions. Those questions are
عن 4.
مو سؤال القبر؟
لا
عن 4.
لا تزول قدم
There is nothing about aqidah in those questions. There are questions about your mal, there are questions about your health, etc., etc. So we would like to look into those, and then we axiomatized them that what questions can be asked. Then we said that since there is no data, nobody has done this kind of thing. So let's look at what is available. Now, what is available in the thing are different things. For example, there is an organization which is called this, they do surveys on corruption. There are organizations which are doing surveys on values. There are organizations which are doing surveys on poverty. So they are collecting data from different people, but pertaining to one country. So again, this methodology that we are using, the multidimensional poverty approach, the beauty of that approach is that you can use the micro data, that you can use the data from the same unit of analysis, and then the analysis, whatever the measures that you create, are decomposable. They are additive measures. You can divide it by population group, you can combine them in different dimensions, etc. That advantage you lose when you collect data from different places. That you take the Amnesty International survey, you take the Health Organization survey, you take this organization survey, and then take the averages. This is not what we are looking for. So the World Value Survey is the survey which provides a bunch of data on the values collected from individuals, at least 1,000 people from each country, maybe more, sometimes 1,500 people from each country, 2,000 people, etc., but minimum 1,000.
Sorry, Doctor, and this also will raise the question how accurate and how non-biased are.
Yeah, this is always, I mean, so coming to the first set of questions that came up, that whether poor or less poor or religious, and the second was that why not Brunei? World Value Survey has not covered Brunei so far. They are covering the countries which allowed. They have not covered Saudi Arabia also. Where the country is allowed, they have covered.
Okay.
And why we have covered, I would like to cover, if you can generate the funding. It is not very big amount that we want to do a pilot survey. It will not cost more than $50,000 for one country. It will be less than that. We tried to do this, we thought, when naively, that Maldives is a small country. So if we can do maybe 1,000 survey over there, it is representative of population, etc. But Maldives is expensive country. It is very small country, but it is very expensive.
But beautiful. Beautiful country.
Beautiful country for outsiders.
هذا دليل على ضعف إيمانك. أنت تدور في المالديف يا عم.
أخي أحب أن الله جميل يحب الجمال يا أخي.
In the honeymoon only.
ويتفكرون.
Please raise your hands. How many of you have gone to Maldives?
How many?
I've gone to
Maldives.
Abdul Razak.
I went to Shepherd, Sri Lanka.
Maldives. If you go to Maldives, you will be disappointed.
You forgot yourself.
No, you will be disappointed because whatever they show you on the travel brochures, etc., they are the island which are bought by the Western hotels and resorts. You cannot go there. You have to book $2,000 per day room over there to go there. The rest of the population is living basically in 2 islands and many other islands which are very poor. This is quite expensive. I mean, if you find a ground which is like a football ground over there, it is a luxury. In that ground, in the evening, all the families will be there just because there is no space except that. So this is not, and you will be surprised to know that Maldives is the country which has the highest divorce rate in the world.
Highest what?
Divorce rate. Highest in the world. And this is a Muslim country. And this has been, I asked the question to them and they said that this has been the case for long. It is not that. So anyhow, that strategy failed because over there the payment per hour is about $50 per hour or so. So in this kind of survey it is quite difficult to do. I mean, people are getting money, but even then if you own a room or if you own an apartment, then you are a rich person there. Otherwise everybody is just renting. So I'm looking for another country and looking for money. If the institute can generate, I'll be happy to do a survey with that.
So you can do it free of charge.
Yes, I will not charge for anything for myself, whatever is the cost. The other question that Brother Masoom raised, that working paper, etc., I think there is some confusion because there are so many things which are done with the similar names. Because how this idea of multidimensional poverty and using Maqasid Sharia came about. It has a history. History is that I was teaching long time ago a course. I was a student in Islamic University in Islamabad, and somebody taught us a course on development economics and how the development is measured, GDP, GDP per capita, and then some other things that they were. Yeah. So at that time, the idea came that, and we were studying Maqasid Sharia as well, so why not to use Maqasid Sharia for measure development in these 5 dimensions? So I wrote a paper as a student at that time. That I started teaching in the same university. So a course on research methods I was given in charge to teach. So I gave this idea to students and they actually tried to do the survey. The very thing, for example, they took crime rate as an indicator for protection of life and protection of property. Now if you want to get the crime rate, you will find that this is very hard to get, because at least in Pakistan this data is not collected at the national level. It is collected at the police station level, and that data is not available as such. Maybe in some district level, but so the project was like that, and it was something in the mind that it was gone, and then I never did much research in poverty afterwards. Afterwards I did other research in poverty and finance, etc. In 2014, IDB invited some people from Oxford Poverty Human Development Initiative to give a lecture, and there was a poster that somebody, a lady, Sabina Al-Khair, will come. I thought that this is Sabina Al-Khairi. Some Arab lady is giving the lecture on poverty, and I had interest in poverty, so I went there too, the whole day. So it turned out this is not Sabina Al-Khairi, this is some Sabina Al-Khair, K-A-L-K-I-R-E, Al-Khair. So she presented their idea that how they are measuring that in 3 dimensions, and they are using dual cutoff, that they create an achievement matrix of people and then make a cutoff at the dimension level and then count the number of dimensions. Then it clicked to my mind that the problems that we were having in the Maqasid Sharia was one was the data, but the other problem was that how to combine different dimensions. And now you can combine very easily because you are simply counting that how many times you are deprived in this dimension, how many deprived. So this is, so in the same course, they put us in different groups and do an exercise, do this thing of poverty alleviation for this country or do this country. So in our group I said that no, we are not going to do that, let me try this Maqasid Sharia thing, and I presented this idea to 5-6 people that and they all liked the idea, and IDB also liked the idea that this is something which is doable, but the data, and if you ask IDB to fund the research, they will not, because they are not in the data collection business and they are not in this. So then I and Hamid as another researcher, he identified well-value survey. I said, okay, this is good. Then we created, this was 2014, we did a round table in Jeddah, and everybody else was doing Maqasid Sharia based on achievement approach. That Brother Lofi was there, I think, that they were looking at like the usual HDI and usual other thing that you measure average, and this was the only paper which was doing a reverse approach, that let's measure development through poverty and look at this counting. And we used only Pakistan. At that time, although 2014 data was announced, but it was not revealed, it was not issued. It was issued, the wave, some other wave data was there. It was 2010 data was before that. And in that, the variables were not that rich. So we had, for the phase, we had only 2 variables. And some other variables, we have only 3 variables. So that paper was published as the working paper, IDB working paper. And by the way, all working papers are working papers. They are not called publication. So working papers are there to get the comments and revise, and they are published elsewhere later on. It is not that something is published as a put in the working paper, then it cannot be published. No, this is not the case.
So most of them are similar actually with the journal published and the working paper. Most of them are similar. I saw the variables and everything.
Okay, so this was the first paper. Then the second paper was that was published in the journal. After Pakistan, we did the same thing for all countries. And the value survey of 2014 data was available, value wave 5, wave 6, whatever, wave 6 data. So on that we ranked policy ranking paper. This is another paper in which it is ranking at which dimension is important for which country. Then the third one, at that time these papers, the graph that I showed you about the development literature, when they are saying that religion and development do not go hand in hand. So these things were started coming out, these kind of things. So we said that we have the data and we have measured the multidimensional poverty. So why don't we separate the faith aspect and see what is the relation? And the relation that we were getting was very different from what is over here. So that was the paper that came out. Just published over here, and the preliminary version was presented in Pakistan conference that you are talking about.
It has never been acknowledged, and I see the
no, this is not published.
70% are similar actually.
No, not.
And the today's
maybe 90% may be similar, but it is never published.
Same actually, if you look at it.
Oh, it is never published. That is the seminar. So, for example, I am now presenting the same paper. So it doesn't mean why I am presenting it over here. I am not presenting it over here as to claim that this is another research that has come, but the paper is out since July. How many of you have read it? So this is my opportunity to extend this thing.
IDB's presentation is and today's presentation are same.
Sure.
Same.
From the IDB presentation, there is the new thing is that we have brought out the logit model, and we have brought out the other thing. For example, in IDB, there is a requirement in IDB that whenever you put a working paper, before the working paper you have to present in the seminar so that people get to comment. So that was October 2018 presentation. After that, the paper came out as a working paper on the site. Working paper means that you have to work on that again. So then, when the paper was submitted over here, it went to referees. Referees brought in different comments. Their comments were mostly about this indigeneity, because I was not looking at indigeneity at that time. I was looking at, because we were doing correlation analysis, not indigeneity, and one regression, and we were very specific that we are not looking at causation. But some people raised this, so we had to go back and add that, think how to remove that indigeneity. So we came up with the idea of stable age population. Let's look into that. Let's look into non-poor group. And this is how this came up, and this is published. Since then, other idea also came that why don't we do the logit analysis if the data is there? And logit analysis provides you with the probability that what is the likelihood of finding something. So that is in this presentation, which I didn't cover over here just for shortage of time. So this is a series of things. This is not that, I'm not saying that this was one publication, this is the same thing as another publication, no.
I'm sorry, I'm not convinced actually, because this is the forum, I don't want to discuss on that. I'm not convinced. This is not expected actually. I'm so sorry for that.
Maybe I will have to learn from you that how it goes.
Not from me, it's you can learn from the intellectual. I'm not happy, I'm not convinced actually, I'm not expecting such. And also you mentioned that there is no data available, but I mentioned a series of data up to date.
No, let me tell you about the data. The World Value Survey always issue data in a wave. They do not issue piecemeal data. They issue data in a wave. So the new data for the survey that has been done has been collected but not revealed until 6 months ago. It was not revealed, I know.
This July, 24th of July is published.
24th of July, if they have revealed, I don't know. But before that, we were looking, because we know that in their data set they have added certain more variables.
And they are very relevant, especially the Burma case, India, China, the New Zealand, then the South Africa, it's a very valuable discussion.
Okay,
would be
that's
that
good.
was my
So we will do another paper on that, then you will again raise the question that why you are going to bring this another data. Okay. The other thing that
No. Yeah. Doctor,
Yes.
the time is almost finished.
okay, just
Give
Dr.
you-
Munawar Iqbal asked the question
I will
about.
give you 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. What is MS Maqal Sharia related? So it started from Maqal Sharia related thing, but as I mentioned that you have to look into what is available and you have to make use of available data. So this is what is. And from this perspective, I think this is a quite new result, which was not expected. You can just distribute, this is just one page summary of the entire thing. People ask, Dr. Bilwafi asked about, I'm skipping your question because we can discuss later about the econometric issues.
Yes,
About the poverty measures are value loaded and they are not very objective. All poverty research is value loaded. What variables you are going to look into? This question itself is value based. Where you are going to define the cutoff? Who will you say is poor and who is not poor? What indicators you are going to look into? So poverty research is never objective. It is always value laden. So the question is that what values we are going to put into that. We try to put into Islamic values, but to what extent we are successful and not. The other question that
If you can, I can offer you the emails for them.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.